Hi, folks. Welcome to another episode of Film Study. This is Ken McCusick, and it's time for this week's matchups episode for the offense in this Week 5 game against the Bengals in Cincinnati. Joining me to do that, of course, is co-host Frazier Tafar. Frazier, how are you doing?
Doing good, Ken. Glad to be back on for the offensive show. Looking for a repeat of what we've seen against Sunday night against the Bills.
Yeah, that certainly was one of the greatest games in Ravens history. So sure, I'll sign up for that right now. If you missed the show on the defense, take a look back, if you will. Some interesting things about potentially traveling with traveling with Humphrey in this game on Chase, and what impact Hamilton might have on the game, showing cover 2 to Burrow. Lots of things that are interesting. Some good points Frazier makes about how the Ravens may line up differently against the Bengals than we've seen immediately. I think we both agree we're probably going to continue to see the dime be a big part of what the Ravens do against Burrow because the short passing game is so effective. But anyway, the episode's not particularly long. It's a good listen though, I think, and please give that a chance. But we'll move on to the offense today. And start us off, Frazier, with your first point.
Yep. My first matchup is going to be our run game versus Bengals run defense. I expect to see same heavy run game plan we've had the past 2 weeks. I think if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But also I expect to see passes mixed in on first down to just continue to break tendency and show that we're capable of throwing the ball. So not having the linebackers be able to go downhill immediately on first can open up the rest of the opportunities on downs like second and third.
Yeah, it's. I think that's very central. I've actually got a point with a lot of overlap to that, and maybe we can. I'll toss mine out there. Maybe we can chew this up a little bit and go back and forth on this, but I think this is, in a lot of ways, a matchup of Monken versus Anarumo. And Anarumo, the defensive coordinator for the Bengals, under tremendous fire with their tough start. Some of it is injury-based. They've have a mash unit of a defensive line room right now, so that makes running the ball very attractive. It also means, I think, naturally, that the Bengals will try and cover up for that weakness with some run blitzes, with some getting into the backfield early. And if they do that, the Ravens need to find other ways to take advantage of that. Last week against Buffalo, Monken delivered an absolutely outstanding set of scripted plays. For the first 20 plays of the game, the Ravens were thoroughly dominant offensively. And those are ones where he's drawing on the install from that week. You know, the players have been through a lot of those plays in walkthroughs on a step-by-step basis. And they were very, very effective. I think the key this week is going to be probing at the Bengals with some chances early on of plays that can be executed in 2 different ways or called in 2 different ways at the line of scrimmage, either one. But they need to take what's given in terms of play action passes, whether it's, misdirection is effective. They're going to want to check on that early to see what they have. They're going to want to check on the power game and see if that will give them what they want. Some scripted, like the 87-yard play is a good example of that.
Great way to start the game.
Yeah, there you go. They're going to need to be ready to throw hot because I think the Bengals are going to try and blitz Jackson. That's certainly something they've done a lot in the past. And they're going to have to be willing to go over the top when blitzes are overly aggressive. So it's a lot to be prepared for, but it's also something where the scripted plays and trying to figure out what the Bengals are really trying to accomplish early on should give them some clues on how they want to operate. If the Bengals aren't really showing a lot of run blitzes, okay, then it's probably the run again this week in terms of dominate them, because they are smallish up front and they can't be expected to hold up under those circumstances.
And also, back to your point about the scripted plays, to your point, Monken had a masterpiece to start the game out. And not to be a negative Nancy, but when Andrews dropped that wide open pass, I feel like that's where the offense kind of died down, because you're on a roll at that point. I mean, everything's hitting, firing in all cylinders, and then you get that, and then Stanley goes offsides the next play. And it's just like, wow. So if we're able to stay on script and not to have too much lag, like Monken likes to say, this could be another dominant win by the Ravens.
Bengals certainly a team that they're catching up at the right time. They're not playing particularly well. They're giving up a ton of points. They just, got rolled over by what is frankly a somewhat similar offense in terms of Washington and what they provide you with Jaden Daniels. So it's certainly possible that the Ravens can get that done again. I thought it's interesting in this last game, and when things are going right in general, I'd say the penalties don't really matter that much. And they had an incomplete to Andrews, and then they had that penalty on Stanley, and they still overcame 3rd and 11 then after that. And then they got into another big hole with the McCary holding, and they overcame 3rd and 14 with both times with passes to Justice Hill, by the way.
Yep.
And I thought that was really good that first of all, that he was able to bail them out twice in that way, maybe both of them, but that the Ravens offense is somewhat resistant to penalties. If you look back to 2019, even though the offense was tremendously efficient, that was one of the Achilles heels they had, was when they got behind the sticks in terms of getting there, usually by penalties, because they didn't really give up a lot of sacks that year either. It was often a case of that was something that could stop the Ravens' juggernaut of an offense. And so far, what they've done this year, I've been really happy with their ability to overcome it. Going back to that first game at Kansas City when they overcame all those BS illegal formation penalties.
Yes, and maybe that's where we see the difference between Todd Monken and Greg Roman. Roman obviously is a coordinator that likes to be ahead of the sticks and not have to draw up concepts on second down to get you back to where you were. So I think Monken's well suited for that with his experience. It's just great to see that come to fruition on the field.
Yeah. All right. Do you have your second point you're going to make?
Yep. So second point is going to be, with the recent success that we're running the ball, turn your back play action, I think, is going to be more of an emphasis, especially like I mentioned, throwing on first down. That's going to be our opportunity to get the linebackers leaning forward and then give Lamar a better window to throw to between second and third level. And when we open up that, I don't think, I feel like the main targets on those plays are probably going to be Likely and Andrews, especially Andrews, just to get him going on the season. He's been really cold. So I think he could be the main feature this week. I don't think the linebackers can't hang. If they put Stone on Andrews, I'm throwing it up personally. So I don't think there's anyone to stop that. And if the run game continues to be successful the way it is, or even half as successful, because half of 199 is 100 yards, or what is it? 100 yards. So even if you can get half of that production that we had last week on the ground, still bodes success for the Ravens.
You're just talking about like that much success for Henry, because that'd be a really low rushing game in total for the Ravens, I'm sure. So you just 140, 150 yards of rushing. They're certainly capable of winning that game. The Ravens have just this week set the all-time record for the most consecutive games to start a season out rushing their opponents by 100 plus yards.
Wow.
So they've got that streak going on.
Attention sports fans, do you love winning? Of course you do. That's why you need to check out Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million members. And it's super easy. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 players, stat projections, sit back and watch the winnings roll in. How about a guaranteed win every week in September? Yep, just one Caleb Williams passing yard gets you a win each football weekend this month. That's 4 weeks of easy W's. But don't sleep on it. This deal vanishes when September ends. But wait, there's more. Worried about injuries ruining your lineup? Relax. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy. If your player leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return, your lineup stays in play. No more stressing over those unexpected injuries. This weekend, I'm taking Derrick Henry for more than 70 yards and Daniel Jones for less than 193 passing yards. 2 picks that I feel great about. And the best part is you can win up to 100 times your money with just 4 correct picks. So what are you waiting for? Download the Prize Pick app today and use the code RAVENS to get $50 instantly when you play just $5. That's right, $50 free just for giving it a shot. More winning, less stressing. Prize Picks is where the fun begins.
And right now, they've got a great rush defense. The Ravens do. I don't see a reason why they shouldn't outrush the Bengals by 100 again. Of course, the game script goes in the Ravens' favor. You do expect them to be running the ball for 4 quarters as opposed to running it for 2.5 quarters kind of thing. So we've got that. I'm optimistic about the run game in this game. With regard to your play action point, though, I really want to see more straight drop play action. And I think that's been what's a little bit missing from the Ravens game is they have less of that. And if you just watch Joe Flacco had a bunch of boots too. And that is a form of play action. It's, usually zone block left, naked boot right. And there's a handoff, ball's going to the left side and he nakeds out to the right. It's more natural for him to roll right because it gets his feet reset quicker. Because he was a non-mobile quarterback, of course, he didn't get noticed as much, and then he's got a true option at 3 levels. And that kind of play action did work for the Ravens fairly frequently. I thought it became a little stale within the division, in particular towards the end of Flacco's tenure, but it was a play that worked for fairly frequently. Lamar when he boots, he does cause some angst, but it much more frequently is resulting in a level 0, level 1, right at the line of scrimmage target to the guy on the near side guy, and the edge, forcing the edge defender into a quick choice. And those have been some good plays recently. I'm not saying there haven't been any good ones. The pass to Kolar was certainly a nice 30-yard play, but it's the kind of thing where I would really like to see more straight drops where you really are targeting the middle of the field between L2 and L3. I think that's where the Ravens can make a lot of hay. The 2 safeties for Cincinnati, Von Bell and Geno Stone, neither has really played that well this year. It's been one of the things that the Know Your Foe guest Mike Santagata really pointed to, is that neither of them has been very good. Both of them can be had. On the outside, Cam Taylor-Britt has been big, but not very good at defending things. And he suggested it might even be a possibility that Flowers would move to the left side to go against Cam Taylor-Britt out of an X slot, just to be able to get more space. You can get him released over there, presumably easier, or you can get him released there, despite the fact that Cam Taylor-Britt might be up in press coverage, because it's too much of a chance to let Flowers get behind you if you miss.
Makes sense. I think from the consensus of what you're saying, you just want to see Lamar actually read the field and not have these easy throws where it's already like the Kolar throw you mentioned, where it's wide open. You want to see him attack the field.
Right. I do. And I think, some of the things have really gone right on some of these little boot plays where they got him to the right and he's had to throw at a different arm angle and nothing's been deflected yet. But both those, some of the options, particularly in this last game.
Crosby had blocked one. I know he did in the beginning of the game.
You're correct. I'm saying in the last 2 wins, actually,
Gotcha.
He's had some of these, 3/4 and, 62% arm angle throws where he's happened to get it by the defender both times. They've ended up being big plays. I don't want them depending on arm angle to give them a chance. I think that's a nice bailout option, but I don't think it's where you want to go first in terms of trying to beat that edge defender. And I am always concerned that Lamar attracts edge defenders because he's the most important player on the field. So, but one guy who dominated the last game obviously was Justice Hill, and I think there may be a secret sauce to it that they've really taken Justice Hill off of a lot of his set and chip blocking responsibilities. Just did 1 chip block in this last game. Now, chip blocks. Okay, first of all, set blocks, as I'm defining them, you don't even go out for a pass. You stay in and you block. So it's not even an issue whether you're a receiver or not. But that obviously, it takes Hill out of the play to use him as a set blocker. They used him 10 times as a set blocker in one of these games. It might have been the Las Vegas game, might have been the Dallas game. I'd have to look back to see which one it is. But they use him 10 times and 5 times as a chip blocker. That's an enormous load off of your eligible receiver group or on your eligible receiver group. So you only have 5 per play. And if you're using, 0.8 per play or 0.7 per play to block, that's a really significant detriment to your passing game. But what I saw from Hill in this last game was he's getting to a better spot, reading the field better. And that, I think, might be the reason why not only was his last game outstanding, but in general, his receiving this year has been at a much higher level than any time prior in his career. He'd been a 5 yards per target guy. In fact, like 4.9 something for his whole career. And then this year he's up north of 7. I don't remember how much north, if he might even be very close to 8, but he's a complete night and day difference as a receiver this year. And he just had the best game of his career in a game where they completely relieved him of pass blocking duties. Doesn't mean that you have to completely relieve him of that. I'm just saying expecting him to chip and then be a significant receiving option is probably going to create lower value situations. So,
and really, Henry seems to be the better chip and release blocker anyways, because of his size and frame. Not saying that Justice Hill's not capable, but like you said, using him in a more efficient way has obviously shown results. We've seen that last week. I think the number one thing I've noticed from Hill in years prior, it seemed like he used to run out of control, just trying to find grass and just go that way. I think now he's starting to learn more, not learn leverage, but read leverage better on the field. Those spin moves he had to get us out on those third downs. I mean, they're massive. So he's starting to have a better feel for the game. Just like I mentioned in the defensive podcast with Washington, just getting those reps and getting the opportunity just to be in situations that you've never been in is just going to make this guy way better.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. He's reading the field better, and I think what you're talking about is really getting a feel for what he's doing as well. The entire his entire ability to figure out his path to the yellow line has been remarkable this year.
Yeah,
in terms of getting first downs on a good percentage of his receptions, but he's been one of the real offensive assets. I'm sorry, did you have a second point, or did you already make it earlier?
Went through second point already.
All right.
Turn your back, play action.
Great. Well, it's always a pleasure to kind of lose ourselves in these discussions. Frazier, tell folks where they can find you online if they want to talk football with you.
You guys can reach me at Twitter/X at F_Rave8. That's F_RAVE8.
All right. Other folks out there, I think you probably know the schedule by now for shows, but I'm just going to go through it once because I do this about once per week. You have 2 defense shows. They typically come out on Monday after a Sunday game, then 2 offense shows, so usually about 2 hours of content total for both. A Know Your Foe episode that typically comes out on Thursday, a One Last Thing episode, oftentimes the same day. That's with me and Slava Cooperstein. Then a Friday morning GM show, and 2 matchup shows, and I'm probably forgetting something, and I apologize for that. But those are the primary shows per week. Really enjoy doing this content. If you have other ideas or want to come on to do a short, hit me up. DMs are always open on Twitter. For Frazier Tafar, this is Ken McCusick saying goodbye. We'll talk to you next week on Matchups.